Hello, Star Wars. It's James with Make an Opening, and today we got ourselves a tier list of every hero in the constructed format of Star Wars Unlimited, the Set 2 meta, Shadows of the Galaxy. We are about a month in, and instead of looking at some of the best decks that have been winning a lot, looking at leaders in specific, not like any specific color pairings or anything like that, but just the leaders in specific and how they sort of line up in the current meta. We do have a few different tiers, S through D. Just kind of think of this as tier 1 to like Jank at the bottom. So you're going to have tier 1, tier 2, 3, 4, and like just Jank. Like maybe they're good in Twin Suns, maybe not even there. I don't know. There's no technical like tier 0 deck in the current meta. And by tier 0, what I mean is just like a deck with no counter, a deck that if you want to win, you bring this deck and this deck only. A deck where over 50% of the entry lists are a specific deck. We haven't hit that point in Star Wars Unlimited yet, thankfully, and I'm really appreciative of that. I was pretty fearful at the beginning of set 1 that it could have been Boba, but that didn't happen, so that's pretty good. I was looking at the leaders. They don't look like they're any particular order, unfortunately. It's not like set 1 then set 2. It doesn't look to be in alphabetical order. Like at first it kind of does, but it's definitely not in alphabetical order. But we're going to go through them. We're going to rank them all from tier 1 to Jank. I'll give a brief little description as to why they're in that rank. And then at the end, we'll sort of break it down and think about, what decks that we could play in the meta. Maybe if there's any secret possible risers that could rise up through the metagame. Obviously, the metagame is very heavily full of aggro and a little bit of mid-range as well right now because it is the start of a new meta. We're about a month and a half in, so that happens. But control players, keep an eye out. Let's hop into this tier list. So first off, we have Afra. She's going to go in Jank. She doesn't really do a whole lot right now. Just giving like little brief descriptions for each leader, At the start of the regroup phase, you take the top card of your deck and you discard it before you draw 2 and then resource 1. And then when she's deployed, if you have a certain amount of cards that are different costs in your discard pile, she gets buffed, so she's a 5/5 instead of a 2/5. I think there's something there, and I think that she could have a really cool Twin Suns deck if you mix her with Kylo and just really, jump full in on the whole discard mechanics. But as of right now, she's not really doing anything too crazy. Next up, we have Bo-Katan Kryze. With Bo-Katan, I'll probably put her in tier 3, like a B tier deck. She's pretty cool. She's mainly built like red-blue aggro Mandalorians. She has like a nice pinging ability similar to Cad Bane, but pinging isn't really doing a whole lot, especially in the current meta. It's just you're not getting a whole lot out of your leader ability. So I'll be putting her in B tier for now. Next up, we have Boba Fett 2, Hero Boba Fett, the second Boba Fett, older Boba Fett, fat Boba Fett, whatever you want to call him. I'm gonna put him in C tier. He's just like, okay, and don't get me wrong, you can play any of these decks from tier 1 all the way down to tier 5 or Jank, whatever you want to call it. You can play any of them and you can have success. The success will dwindle the further down you get down the list, but don't be afraid to just, have fun and play what you like and play with your favorite characters in the Star Wars galaxy and all that fun stuff. But this Boba Fett is not as stellar as set 1 Boba Fett, who's obviously going to be in tier 1 whenever we get there. But his ability is pretty cool. When you play any unit with a keyword, you can exhaust them to give a +1/+0 to any of your friendly units. Not even the one that necessarily came in that triggered the ability, which is pretty cool. It's just right now, he's not really there, I don't think. I could see like a green-yellow, like ambush sort of like tribal deck work pretty well, similar to some of the stuff that I've seen with Fennec. So I don't know. Speaking of set 1 Boba, obviously we're jamming him right up to tier 1. He's been tier 1 since before the game even dropped. He's been tier 1 throughout the entire set 1 meta and set 2 meta. He is still going strong with new additions like Hotshot Blaster, Jetpack, Boba's armor in specific. He's just a solid card. I don't really need to explain why. He gets to resource cheat. He comes out on 5, overstatted. Like, he's absolutely insane. He is peak leader design. as of set 2. So obviously not a whole lot to go off of right now. We've only seen 2 sets. That means we've only seen 36 leaders. But out of all the leaders that will end up in S tier or tier 1 today, he will probably be my pick for the number 1 out of all of them. It'd be pretty close though. Next up, we got Bosk, and I'm going to actually slam Bosk in as our first A tier or tier 2 deck. I really like him. Nice bounty hunter synergy. He ramps really well, especially with being able to double up on bounties like Bounty Hunter's Quarry, Price on Your Head, stuff like that, in order to not only, you know, turn the top card of your deck into a resource, but the top 2. I've been playing a few games with the list. I think it's from the KTOD guys, but my friend Brandon sent it to me. And I've been able a couple times. I think I've hit 9 resources on like turn 4 or 5. It's absolutely insane. I think Bosk is pretty good. Very inconsistent, I think, but it's very fun to play. You ramp very fast. You can run out of steam when you're ramping super fast as well. But I do think that people can find a way to properly break him in the meta and have him shoot up the boards a little bit. But that's just me. Next up, we have Cad Bane, and similar to Bo-Katan, it's good for tribal, except instead of Mandalorian tribal, we're looking at Underworld tribal. You get the ping stuff. Theoretically, Underworld units are going to be better than Mandalorian units, so I would put him above Bo-Katan, but they both sit pretty comfortably here in like the tier 3 section of decks. They're very similar. It's just a different tribe that they're working with. Now we got Cassian Andor. Unfortunately for him, he does fall into the Jank category. He's a really fun leader to play in Twin Suns because you have to deal 3 damage to a base, and there's a whole lot of ways to do that in Twin Suns versus, you know, if you're doing one-on-one, he's a lot worse because when he's out and about, people will just remove him. He has terrible stats. So I'm going to put him in Jank, and I will say that in Constructed, he might be a little worse than Afra. I am doing a tier list for Constructed play after all, Premier. But in Twin Suns, I might have him a little higher than Afra. Honestly, I might not even have him in Jank. He might even be up a tier, just because card draw is really nice to have in Twin Suns. But that's where Cassian's going to be, unfortunately. Next up, we got Chewbacca, and he's going to go straight to C tier or tier 4. He's pretty cool, and I really like the card Let the Wookiees Win from set 2. I've been playing around with Chewie lists, and I think it's fun. It's definitely not good, but especially in the current meta, it's just not good. In Twin Suns, Chewbacca gets a whole lot better because he comes out as a Sentinel to protect your other leaders, so you like sort of delay deploying some of your other leaders until Chewie hits the field, and then you combo out a little bit. Or if you're playing Han with Chewie, you can sort of get him out on the same exact turn, but Han would have to be on the field first. You got to sort of maneuver around that. But this is Constructed. He just gives unit Sentinel for a phase. Nothing too crazy. And then Cheer It, he does something similar, but he gives a unit +0/+2 for the phase. So if you're giving a unit +0/+2, it helps their survivability, helps them avoid key removal cards, especially if it's a key piece that you don't want to be removed, or if you have a current Sentinel on the board already and you want it to avoid lethal damage to keep it around for at least the end of the phase. Cheer It's ability is a lot better. Most people that play Cheer It don't really utilize his ability, and he still performs better than some of these decks. And I will even say that in this tier list, he probably ranks above Cad and Bo-Katan for the sole purpose that his ability, when flipped, he just doesn't die. For the most part, he has really good force energy and a bunch of really good force synergetic cards that you can use to really break Cheer It, as long as nobody has Rivals Fall, right? Because Rivals Fall, that'll be the end of them. Finnick, as I mentioned before, I'm just going to sort of put in the tier with Boba Fett. And I will probably put, you're giving stuff Ambush, you're giving things, Sentinel and Ambush. Honestly, and Chewbacca and Finnick are pretty fun together in a Twin Suns list. You can either go offensive or defensive. Ambush is a lot stronger than Sentinel, and then Ambush is probably better than giving things +1/+0. So I'll probably put Finnick here, and I might even put Chewie above Boba as well. But I'm putting Finnick in the same tier as Chewie and Boba because they're all pretty similar when it comes to their leader ability and the effect and everything. Finn is going straight to Jank. You're blowing up upgrades to give shields. In some aspects, this works pretty well. But if you're blowing up upgrades to give shields, why not just play Luke to give things shields in the first place? Obviously, Luke is limited to only being able to give shields to heroic units you played as of that turn. But With Finn, you can overcome that downside with a steeper downside of having to blow up an existing upgrade. Now, these upgrades can be experience tokens or other shield tokens or anything, really, but it's just not very good. And it's worse than drawing a card, and it's probably worse than the possibility of, you know, doing things in the discard pile, recurring stuff with Palpatine's return and stuff like that. So as of right now, Finn's going to be down here in his lonesome. But again, in Twin Suns, if you pair him with a leader that can give out experience counters or other upgrades, Finn gets a lot better. Pair him with Rey, and you get a double blue plus whatever color, so you can run 4-cost vigilances and stuff like that. I think that could be a pretty fun list, but as of now, poor guy going to be way down here. Next, we got Gar Sexy coming in the B tier, tier 3. He gives you know, global buffs to units that have upgrades on them. He's going to be a little bit lower than another leader that gives global buffs in the form of Krennic, just because you have to put an upgrade on them with Gar Saxon, or they have to come in with upgrades already like shields or stuff like that in order to trigger Gar Saxon. And in my opinion, that's harder than to trigger them getting damage, because you can just slam them into opponents' units to activate Krennic. Also, Krennic still sees better placements and better deck lists being piloted versus Gar Saxon. It is a newer leader, but Gar Saxon just doesn't have that same oomph that you get out of Krennic. And when it comes to this tier, I will put him above the pingers, because that +1/+0 that you get if they're upgraded is a lot longer than just one ping. You know, this is until they are unupgraded or dead. So Gar Saxon above Cad Bane and Bo-Katan Kryze. Grand Inquisitor, my very first deck I ever built and ever played in Star Wars Unlimited. My pride and joy. He is going into the B tier as well, tier 3. You have to damage your own units, but you can ready them, and there's a lot of combo-tastic decks out there that you can use and abuse, and there's some really fun stuff you can do with them, and especially with Grand Inquisitor, both blue and yellow. I've seen a lot of fun stuff with. Grand Inquisitor Green had a little bit of a nice showing in the Take the Initiative, like webcam series around like this time, set 1. So I do think Grand Inquisitor is a possible leader in the future. I do think it could have legs, but in the current meta, probably not. It is definitely a very fun list to pilot. I love Inquisitor. His showcase is really dope. I don't think as of right now he's better than the pingers. Maybe, if anything, better than Bo, but I'm gonna just leave it like this for right now. Next up, we got Young Han, Han 2, or Red Han, whatever you want to call him. This guy is definitely going in S tier. The best leader from set 2. You get to cheat out bombs. A lot of people are playing Young Han Blue. I have a video up on the channel, the Young Han Blues. The deck's popping. It's positioned great in the meta, in my opinion, alongside Kira Green, which is another leader we'll get to here in a moment. Han Solo is just in a very, very good spot right now. His deck is a whole lot of fun to play. There's a lot of interesting lines you have to think about when playing him, because if you cheat out a unit and the enemy has enough resources to now use a kill spell that otherwise wouldn't have been effective on that unit, but now it can be, like, you got to be really careful when playing him and cheating stuff out. But if you pilot him effectively, man, oh man, is it satisfying. Han Solo, young Han Solo, set 2 Han Solo, Han 2 Solo, Red Han, tier 1. Hera Syndulla. I don't feel like I need to talk too much about this. You get to play Spectres without, you know, paying for the aspect penalty. So you can run all the Spectre units in one deck. We're talking Chopper, Kanan, the Ghost, Ezra, Sabine, the whole 9. And maybe in the future, if they get different versions of the Spectre units that are stronger and better, more reliable, and more of a reason to play them for less, the deck could get better. On the flip side, she gives experience counters out, which is pretty cool, but no, not it. Worse than Finn. I'm going to say it, worse than Finn. Yeah. Hondo Onaka is actually going to be right up here in my A tier as a sneaky little addition. He's recently popped out during Gen Con as a control deck you need to keep your eyes on. We have a Hondo Onaka green-blue villain. Obviously, green-blue villain is just a staple for control decks, but being able to get some extra value out of your smuggle cards in a pseudo control deck or control deck in general is going to be pretty good. He pushes a lot of value out, and his stats are pretty good to boot. So I'm going to put Hondo in A tier, and I might put him a little bit over Bosk. As of right now, I think that looks good. Next up, Hunter. Don't need to talk too much about this. As the game goes on and there's more units that can be played that share names, like right now we have multiple Chewbacca units, you know. Once that becomes more prevalent over the sets, over the coming years, you know, over the coming metas, Hunter could become a viable leader, but I could see him becoming viable first in Twin Suns over Premier, and he's not even good in Twin Suns. Like, don't play this leader. Worse than Hera, probably the worst leader in the entire game. Keep him right there. Keep him right there. Next up, we have Iden Versio. Iden Versio is going to go comfortably at the top of A tier, the top of tier 2. One of the best control lists from set 1. Having a little bit of a fall off due to the big climb and resurgence of both Kira and Palpatine as of right now. So, you know, Iden and her counterpart from the control meta last set will also be making an appearance in A tier. But whether you're playing Iden Green, whether you're playing Iden Red, or even Iden Blue, Iden is a very strong deck that provides a lot of control, a lot of sentinels, a lot of healing. And she can really help you sneak out some games against some of the earlier aggro, like early on aggro decks that try to just push face and kill you because they're trying to exploit your weakness as a control deck. She does a really good job of sort of countering that. So I think Iden definitely deserves the top spot here in tier 2. IG88, unfortunately for IG, he's going in Jank. I will say that I will put him probably... He can buff a lot of units, and he's like strong if you're able to swarm the board, which is pretty easy and a lot easier to do than some of these other leaders. So I might put him at the top of Jank right now. Not really much to say on IG88. So I'm just gonna sort of parlay that straight into Jabba the Hutt from this new set 2, the Big Slug. And he will go somewhere in this tier here, probably above Gar but below Chirrut. He's really cool. He has a really good synergy with his own Rancor Patissa, playing it a turn earlier. If you can claim the bounty off of Jabba, you can play units a turn early. And also, if you put a bounty on a unit, then flip Jabba and put another bounty on a unit, and then take it out, you can play something for 3 less, so you can really abuse that on the Jabba flip turn. Another key synergy that you have with Jabba is when you play him, you capture a unit, and then you drop a Dryden Boss to play a unit that's been captured. That's a really popular and fun combo that a lot of people were sort of jumping at the beginning of set 2 because it was extremely obvious. Jabba the Hutt hasn't really gone anywhere too far, hasn't made a whole lot of top cuts, or even really a whole lot of appearances in tournaments regardless as of right now. But I do see the potential. I think it has legs, at least Jabba Yellow does. If there's a way to incorporate blue into his list and do, obviously green blue villain control is just really good, but if there's a way to sort of sneak in the resource cheating of making units cheaper in a control list with Jabba, it might make him that much better. I don't know. Might be something to think about. Won't waste too much time, and I'll put Jin quickly in the trash. Has a little bit more use than Hera and Hunter because you can make defenders a little bit weaker. Then we'll go to Krennic. And this is Iden's friend that is joining him in the A tier as a really solid blue-green villain control deck that unfortunately has ceded its position a little bit to Kira, but is still extremely good. One of the top meta decks. And then looking at the list, next up we got my boy Kylo Ren. And I don't know if this is overzealous of me at all, but I'm putting Kylo Ren in tier 2 or A tier. This has been my go-to list for set 2. As you guys know, throughout all of set 1, I was a Grand Admiral Thrawn merchant. He is all I played. He's what I love. He is my main slice, my main boy, and he still is. I still play a lot of Thrawn on Karabast. If you ever catch me on Karabast and you're getting your ass controlled and whooped, probably me, but there's a lot of Thrawn players out there. Shout out my Thrawn players. But I decided to switch it up and go from hard control to extremely fast aggro, where if I'm not winning by turn 5, or turn 4, the game's probably over. And Kylo ran yellow with a heavy attribute and space. It's been my go-to deck. I built it right before set 2 sort of dropped, whenever all the spoilers are coming out. I've been piloting it to great success. I have the whole list in paper. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm loving it. And I think it's really strong. I outrace Sabine, which is a plus. It is pretty consistent. So if you get countered in space at all, then things can go wrong, which is a downside. I've been making changes to make that happen a lot less and make it easier for me to race people on the ground with additions like Jeddah City, Outmaneuver, and even cards like Open Fire. It sort of slows me down a little bit, but it protects my game plan and helps me race a little bit better. And over time, I feel like my Kylo deck has even gotten a little bit better. Unfortunately, I don't really have any cool, fun, big tournaments to play near me. I had a big planetary qualifier open up near me in Dallas, but it got filled up within a day, basically. They did a terrible job sort of figuring out the announcement and scheduling of that. I'm on the wait list, but it would have been fun taking Kylo to like a big 128 player qualifying tournament, seeing how he did, but I guess I'll just wait till the Store Showdown season. I'll probably talk more about Kylo than every other leader because it's just my flavor of the month right now. So that's what I'm going to do. Also, quick parlay, Lando is probably Jank. I am working on a Lando red list that I think could be pretty fun, and I can start testing it a little bit more on Carabas now that he's not broken. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, Leia Organa, and my oh my, how the mighty have fallen. I will put her at the top of C tier, but set 1, she was already a little bit outclassed by Sabine in terms of red-green, heroic, rebel, tribal, aggro decks. I did think Leia still had pretty good legs going into set 2, but as spoiler season continued and more things were revealed for Sabine's usefulness and not so much Leia, especially because her leader ability really ties her to specifically work with rebels only, she fell more and more down the tier list. Now, I do think she is still good, and I do hope that she gets better. Rebels can easily show up in set 3 as like little surprise side characters, because obviously in set 1, it was all, original series stuff, but we were getting cards like Mace Windu. So hopefully some nice key Rebel cards come out in set 3 that help Leia's viability a little bit, but as of right now, top of C tier. Sorry, Brandon. I'm sorry. Looks like we're down to the last row of leaders, the last 11 or so. So let's see how fast we can sort of knock these out. Luke, definitely going to be tier 2, and it'll probably be over Hondo because he's a little bit more proven. Luke, unfortunately, never winning anything too big during set 1, was always and is still always making top 8s and top 4s in the current meta with the current tournaments. Luke's always going to be there. He's always going to be a staple, but until some eventual point where he gets key cards that really take him to the next level, I don't see him jumping into S tier as of yet. It is a possibility, as it is with most units in A tier, because they've either been S tier before or are just a few pieces away from being S tier. I think Luke falls into the category of just being 1 or 2 cards away from, jamming in an extra playset or 2 and really catapulting him to the next level. He's just not there yet. Next up, we have Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon is one of the starter deck leaders. He is from the pre-releases. If you got the pretty, hyperspace versions, I honestly think they did an amazing job with the set 2 pre-release, and I hope the same thing happens with set 3, because a full art Ahsoka and General Grievous, please, I'm playing General Grievous set 3 no matter what, unless they do, let's see. I definitely want to play General Grievous. I love being a dark side guy. Thrawn set 1, Kylo set 2. What else would I do? A Count Dooku leader might be cool, depending on the colors. I could see him being like a blue leader. Nuke Gunray, leader of the Trade Federation, that could be kind of cool. What else? Obviously, like Palpatine. There could even be a Darth Maul leader, but probably not. I would see a Dooku leader before. And also, I think they're emphasizing more on episodes 2 and 3 and not so much episode 1, so we probably won't get our Darth Maul leader, even though he's going to be a unit. I'm thinking. But anyway, Gideon, he's going to be in here somewhere, probably above Boba Fett. You get to swing with things, give him overwhelm, make him stronger. He's really good with swarming the board and making a bunch of little things better. And Twin Suns, him and IG-88 is a nasty pairing. But as of right now, let's put him in C tier. Han Solo, one of the best tier 1 leaders in the game above his young counterpart. The fact that there's 2 Han Solo leaders and they're 2 of the best leaders in the entire game is really saying something. I wouldn't put him right above Boba Fett as of yet because they both were in the game the same amount of time. It took people a lot longer to catch on to Han Solo versus Boba Fett. Over time, I think Han Solo will pass Boba Fett, but as of right now, I think Boba Fett's still going to be a little bit better than Han Solo. Personal preference. Next up, Emperor Palpatine. S tier, both Palpatine Green and Palpatine Blue are amazing control decks, and I'm even hearing things about Palpatine Yellow as well. Amazing control list. A control list that's a little bit better is going to be Kira, and I'm going to be putting Kira right here. I do think Han Solo can beat Kira on any given day. It's a really good match into it, but in terms of against the majority of the field, I think Kira is better than Han Solo, so that's how I'm going to put this. I do want to make a video on Woo's Kira deck, or maybe Woo plus, my own little touch and taste and spin on things. I don't really know. But Kira's a really fun control leader to play in the current meta. Love her. She's super fun. I love her flip turn. She's super versatile. Absolutely amazing. Stunning showcase. Creme de la creme. Rey Skywalker. Where are we going to put Rey? We're going to put her comfortably in tier 2. Rey Red is a pretty good deck that's been making noise. She's really good at buffing. She's really good at stabilizing in the mid game and healing, especially against really aggressive decks. She doesn't fare really well into control lists, but I feel like at least against aggro and mid range, she's pretty good. Not going to put her over my boy Kylo. Low key, I kind of want to do this with Kylo. Don't tell nobody. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. Also, I'm going to save the best for last. But we'll put Rey there. Next, we got Sabine, obviously S tier, and we're gonna put Sabine right here. The best and the top tier, the premier, the go-to aggro deck in the meta since the beginning of set 1, since before the game came out. These are the big 3 of Star Wars. We got Boba, we got Han, we got Sabine. And honestly, if you want to do one for each type of archetype, aggro, mid-range, and control, we could even say this on any given day. Han Solo, Sabine, Kira are the big 3. Or you could say Boba, Sabine, Kira are the big 3. Either way, the women are out performing the men. So shout out women. I love women. Women's rights. What am I talking about? Tarkin, aka Garkin, if you pair him with Gar Saxon and Twin Sons. Tarkin, I'm going to put in tier 2. Alongside but slightly behind my boy Kylo, mainly because in the meta right now there is a very affordable Tarkin Yellow all vehicles swarm deck with TDR or Triple Dark Raid that's really good, very affordable, and can take any casual player to the next level. It's very versatile, very strong, and it's not as gas out aggro as Kylo is, but it's aggro that lasts throughout the rest of the game. I think it's really strong, especially with Lurking TIE Phantom and the ability to buff everything because you're typically running all Imperial vehicles to boot. So I think Tarkin is actually really good in the meta as of right now, which is really weird for me to say, I think. I don't know. That might be a hot take. The final 3, we got the Mandalorian coming in the B tier, right above the pingers. There's some really fun Mandalorian lists out there to play. I personally want to do a Mando green list, where it's all about dropping bounties on people, and then since they kind of upgrade sort of, exhausting them, and you make it like a yellow-green hero, like either mid-range control hybrid sort of deck. I think that could be pretty fun. There are probably lists floating around with that already, that idea, but I know right now Mando Blue and Mando Red are the more prevalent options right now, but I think that would be pretty fun. Now we got Vader. Vader had his time in the sun during set 1 whenever he had his Vader Blue control. Vader Green Ramp is still really good. Vader Blue control is still really good. I'm going to put him in A tier, and I'm going to put him right next to his son, Luke Skywalker. How fitting, but I'll probably have to put him a little bit above Luke because villain bias, villain's better. You can run green villain with him. You can run blue villain with him. Either go control or mid-range ramp, and I feel like both of those are going to beat Luke on any given day. So I'll put Vader above Luke, and last but not least, top of S tier, we got Thrawn. Let's go Thrawn. In all seriousness, Thrawn belongs somewhere in here. He is hard control to the T, And before I ruffle anyone's feathers, because I don't, a lot of people might even not even think Thrawn goes here. A lot of people might think Thrawn goes here, or God forbid, here, right? I will put Thrawn at the bottom of B tier. He's gotten a lot better in set 2. And if you guys really want, I know I've milked Thrawn because that's one of my favorite leaders, if not my favorite leader in the entire game. I can make a deck tech video. I can. So guys, this has been my leader tier list for set 2 meta of Star Wars Unlimited, the Shadows of the Galaxy meta. Let me know how I did. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Where is your favorite leader at? Are they too low? Are they too high? Are there sleeper lists that I forgot about that would maybe cheer it from B tier to S tier? Let me know. Have fun conversations down in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, please like, favorite, share, subscribe, comment, love me. Let's do a dance together. Bye, guys.